Alright, what is up you guys, and welcome back to the Progressive Skills in English Level 3 coursebook. In today's recording, we're going to be going over the speaking section, right? So let's hop right in. We're going to start this lesson here with two not so simple questions. So, what is the main distraction for you when you're trying to study? And I know when you think about it, it's really not that simple, right? Like you have your phone, you have your computer, you have people talking to you. So what do you think the main distraction is? I mean, this will be up to you, but for me, it's definitely my phone. I mean, your phone is such a big distraction, especially when someone's trying, or when you're trying to study or even get work done. Okay? And for two, how can you prevent the distraction or deal with it? Well, to prevent the distraction, in my case, would be to either turn off my phone, which is not always a good option because I could get important calls, right? But a way to deal with it, for me, that has worked for me, is to put it on silent, right? Like keep it in front of me and put it on silent, right? That way, if I get an important text or call, I know that it's important. And if I just see people babbling on a group, for example, I'll just ignore it, right? So this is how I deal with my main distraction. Yours could be different. Let me know, okay? Now let's go to exercise B, understanding a model. So it looks like we're going to be listening to some audio here. And we have listened to the first part of a tutorial, right? So we're going to be listening to a tutorial, first part to be exact, about interruptions by people, okay? And we're going to have to complete the solutions part of the table in your notes. So we're going to have to complete this tab after listening to the first part of the tutorial. So get ready, you guys? Here we go.
Track 3.11.
Okay, I asked you to look at time thieves for this tutorial. In particular, I asked you to do some research on interruptions from other students, particularly flatmates. How did you get on? Mark?
OK, I asked several people and they all said that other people are the main time thieves. I asked people for solutions. Some people said, tell them to go away. So, that's the first solution. Other people said that you should stop for a few minutes. You should stop and talk to them for a few moments. Then you should get on with your work. So that's number 2. A couple of people said that you should not try to study at home, in your flat or house. You should go to the library instead. That's what I found.
Alright, so that was an interesting audio, right? So for solutions, for one, Mark said that we could tell the people, or known as the time thieves, right? People talking to you when you should be, I don't know, studying or getting work done, right? All of these interruptions, what can you do about it? So the first solution would be to simply tell them to go away. Now, that could come off as rude, especially if you're talking to, I don't know, your dad, maybe someone older than you, a professor, for example, that wants to stop by and talk for a bit. So this does not always work. So let's go to the second solution, and that is to stop for a few minutes and talk. You know, chatting for 3 to 5 minutes probably won't hurt you. So you could stop for a few minutes and talk. And the third solution, which I personally don't think is that good of an idea, is to simply not study in your home or flat or apartment. Go to a library or, I don't know, go to a coffee shop. Just don't study at home where you know, especially flatmates could, or roommates could annoy you or want to talk or play music, whatever. So don't try to study at home. So the 3 solutions again is 1, tell them to go away. 2 is stop for a few minutes and talk. And 3, don't try to study in your house. For example, go to your local library. Okay? So that was the first part of the tutorial. Now let's go to B2 here. Listen to the second part of the tutorial. What did the students think about each solution? Complete the problems with solutions part of the table in your notes. Alright, so let's listen to the second part. Here we go.
Track 3.12.
OK. What do we think of those solutions?
I agree with the first solution. They know that you have to study, so they shouldn't interrupt you.
I don't think that's possible. You can't be rude to someone, even if you are studying. I think the second solution is better. Stop for a few minutes and then continue.
That's right. You can be polite, but then say that you have to study. Yes, I think so too. That's the best solution.
Absolutely. Just have a quick chat.
Possibly, but the interruption still disturbs you.
I suppose so.
OK, I've changed my mind. The last solution is the best one. Go and study somewhere else.
I agree.
So do I. Me too.
Okay, so looking at the problems with the solutions that we wrote down, the first one we had was tell them to go away. And in this case, the main problem is that you can't really be rude, right? It comes off as rude, even if you have the best intentions at heart of wanting to study or get work done, but you can't be rude. So that's problem number one. For two, we have stop for a few minutes to talk. And this seems like a good idea, right? A good solution, except the fact that this could ruin your productivity or simply disturb you, right? If you're so focused on work and someone just suddenly comes up to you and starts talking, you will get interrupted and will be disturbed by it. So we'll say problem with solution number two is that the interruption disturbs you. Okay? What about solution three, which was don't try to study in your house, go to a library? And it seems that all of the students agreed that this was the best solution because you can't be rude and no one will interrupt you in a library, right? So this, according to the students, looks like the best solution because it has no problems. Okay? Which solution did they agree on? Again, like we said, three, which is don't try to study in your house, go to your local library. Alright, you guys, so that was exercise B. Now let's go to the vocab box before we move on. Here we have change your mind, chat, continue, emergency, flatmate, interrupt, library, ring, make a phone call, screen, thief/thieves, and turn off. Okay? Now let's go to exercise C here. Studying a model. Alright. So study the extract from the tutorial below. Right, so this is text from the tutorial that we just heard, and there seems to be grammar mistakes, right? So there are extra words and even missing words, and there are wrong words and wrong tenses. Basically, the grammar is all over the place. There are 14 mistakes altogether. So let's start reading and correct them as we go. So some people, they said, tell them to go away. Another people said that you stop for a few minutes. I can already see so many mistakes. So some people, we don't need they here. They is extra, so we'll get rid of they, right? Save it. So some people said, that's better. Tell them to go away, okay? Another is wrong in this case. We'll use other and not another. Other people said that you stop for a few minutes. Said that you, will add you should. We'll say should here. That you should stop for a few minutes. Okay? B. I agree the first solution. They know that you're having to study, so they should not to interrupt you. Oh, okay. I agree the first solution. We'll have to add with here. Agree with, right? Agree with the first solution. They know that you have, not having, so we'll get rid of that. You will get rid of are, so and just add have, so that they know that you have to study, so they should not They should not interrupt you. We'll get rid of to here. So they should not interrupt you. Okay, so I agree with the first solution. They know that you have to study, so they should not interrupt you. Again, I don't think is possible. You can't be rude to someone even if you study. I think the second solution is better. I don't think we'll add that. We'll say that is possible. You can't be rude, and we'll add to someone. It's not just someone, it's to someone. So rude to someone. Even if you study, even if you will say are studying and not study. Even if you are studying, okay? Even if you are studying, I think the second solution is better, okay? B, that's it. You can polite, but then tell that you have study. Okay. We're not going to say it. We're going to say that's right, as in correct. That's right. You can polite. We'll say be. You can be polite, but then not tell. We'll use say here. Say that you have to study and not study. Have to study. Now let's read it and see if we got them all correct. So some people said tell them to go away. Other people said that you should stop for a few minutes. I agree with the first solution. They know that you have to study, so they should not interrupt you. I don't think that is possible. You can't be rude to someone even if you are studying. I think the second solution, I think we'll add an is here, right? So it looks like I missed one. I think the second solution is better. That's right. You can be polite, but then say that you have to study. Okay? So all of these were mistakes that we got them right. So yeah, exercise C, done. Now let's move on. Here we have exercise D, practicing a model. Okay. Role play another part of the tutorial on time thieves. Okay, so role play if you're in class. How can mobile phones distract you from study? Okay, so this will be up to you, right? It is your role play after all, but I'll give you some ideas. So, how can mobile phones distract you from study? Well, some ideas could include that people call or send you messages, right? There are also text alerts, emails, you get the idea, etc. It's always going off. And you could play games, listen to music, and all of these could count as distractions that could distract you from studying properly. And what about some possible solutions? Well, you could just tell people to not to ring, right? I mean, on social media, if you write a post or something saying that you're going to be studying, you don't want anybody to talk to you for a while, hey, that's usable. You could also turn off your phone. That's also another solution, although not the best, like I said, but hey, you could turn it off. Also, you could mute your phone. Okay, so these are all possible solutions. Now, let's listen to the students discussing mobile phones and compare our ideas. Let's go.
Track 3.13.
I looked at mobile phones. I talked to a number of students and they all agreed that the mobile phone is a big thief. The problem is that it never stops ringing. I asked people for solutions and some people said, turn it off. And other people said, tell people not to ring at certain times when you are studying. A few people said that you should screen the calls. You know, only answer if you need to speak to the person. So, those are my solutions.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I agree with the first solution. I think that you should turn off the phone when you are studying.
Absolutely. We shouldn't let mobile phones rule our lives.
I'm not sure. Mobile phones are for people to contact you in an emergency, so you can't turn them off all the time. That's right. You have to keep your mobile on, but you don't have to answer it.
I suppose so. You could just screen the calls.
Perhaps, but the call still disturbs you even if you don't answer it.
That's true.
OK, you're right. The second solution is the best one. Tell people not to call during your study period. Then they can still call if it's really an emergency.
I agree.
I do too. So do I.
Alright, so it looks like their ideas are similar to ours, right? Their possible solutions were to simply tell people not to ring you during your study period, right? Some people said screen calls, which is one that I didn't even think about, and that is, well, mine was similar, was to mute your phone and just look at it when you think that there's an emergency. But people say screen calls as in, if you see someone calling, just don't answer it, right? Keep your phone on, but don't answer the calls. But like they said, you could still be disturbed by this. So the third solution was to turn it off, but then you wouldn't know if there was an emergency or not. So all of these have their own problems, so they agreed that the best solution was to simply tell people not to ring. And you just have to assume that it's an emergency if someone rings, even though you told them not to. Okay? So that was exercise D. Now let's move on to the next page. What do we have here? Here we have activating ideas. Here we have some photographs. Look at the photographs and discuss these questions. Why is the man interrupting the meeting? What is he saying to the woman? Right, so we're talking about the first photograph here, by the way. So it looks like they're in a meeting and a guy just barged in and wants to talk to this woman, probably giving a presentation or talking about something important. So why is he interrupting the meeting? What is he saying to the woman? I mean, this will be up to you as a student. It's your own answer, but I'm guessing maybe there's a message, a phone call, or even an emergency. So he might be saying, sorry to interrupt, sorry to disturb you, but we have an emergency. This happened, that happened. Okay? What is the woman saying to the caller? Right, so this woman looks like she got an unexpected phone call. So she could be saying, can I call you back? Or could you call me back? I can't talk at the moment. Sorry, but I'm having a meeting at the moment. All of these are things that she could be saying to excuse herself to get back to work, or in this case, meeting, for example. Okay? Then we have 3. Why is someone interrupting the lecturer, and what is he saying? Right, so maybe he or she didn't understand something, right? I'm talking about someone that's interrupting the lecturer, right? Or maybe that someone disagrees or wants to add something. He or she may be saying, hey, excuse me for interrupting, or could I interrupt for a moment, right? Or a second. Could I just say or add something specific? That's it. Alright? So these were some of the photographs, or some of the questions. Now let's go to exercise B, studying the models. Alright, what do we have here? Where are the other conversations taking place? Or actually, before we do that, let's go to 1. Listen to the conversations. Find 3 conversations that match the photographs. Okay, so we're going to be listening to the conversations and we want to find 3 ones that match the photographs above. So here we go.
Track 3.14.
1. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call for you.
Who is it?
The CEO.
Right, I'd better take it. Excuse me a moment.
2.
Can you help me with this?
I can't, I'm afraid. I'm flat out.
It'll only take a minute.
OK, pass it over.
3.
Am I disturbing you?
Well, I am a bit busy at the moment.
OK, I'll phone back later.
Thanks. After 2.
4.
Is it OK if I put the television on?
Well, actually, I'm trying to read.
I won't have it on loud.
You always say that. 5.
Can I disturb you for a moment?
Yes, what is it?
The internet connection has stopped working again.
Well, phone the maintenance department then.
6.
Sorry, could I possibly interrupt?
Yes, of course. What's the problem?
Well, would you mind repeating that last figure? I'm afraid I missed it.
Certainly. It was $15,783,000.
Alright, so these were the 6 conversations. Now we want to find 3 that match the photographs, so let's close this for a second. Let's take a look at 1. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but there is an urgent call for you. Who is it? The CEO? Right, I'd better take it. Excuse me a moment. Well, this fits best with the first photograph, right? It only makes sense. The guy comes in. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call for you. She answers, who is it? The CEO. And right, I'd better take it. Excuse me a moment. So 1 will go with the first picture. Now let's go to 3. Am I disturbing you? Well, I am a bit busy at the moment. Okay. I'll phone back later, means I'll call you back later. Thanks, after 2. So this goes with the second photograph here, right? And then we have, which one? I think we'll probably say 6. Sorry, could I possibly interrupt? Yes, of course. What's the problem? Well, would you mind repeating that last figure? I'm afraid I missed it. Certainly, it was 15,783,000. So we're talking about the lecturer. Remember, why is someone interrupting the lecturer? This is why, okay? Now let's open exercise B again. We did B1. Now let's go to B2. Where are the other conversations taking place? Okay, so we did 1, 3, and 6. So now we have 2, 4, and 5. So can you help me with this? I can't. I'm afraid. I'm flat out. It'll only take a minute. Okay, pass it over. So we'll say that conversation 2 seems to be at home or at a university or in the sitting room. It looks like it's a casual conversation. Okay? And then we have 4. Is it okay if I put the television on? Well, actually, I'm trying to read. I won't have it on loud. You always say that. So conversation 4, again, pretty casual conversation. Looks to be at either home or in the sitting room or in the salon, for example, but it's a casual conversation as well. Then we have number 5. Can I disturb you for a moment? Yes. What is it? The internet connection has stopped working again. Well, phone the maintenance department then. So this looks, yeah, this is probably in a rented accommodation of some sort, or in maybe a student hostel, or even at a university. Okay? So these were that's where the other conversations are taking place. B3. Which of the 6 conversations are formal and which are informal? So when talking about formal, you usually say things like, I'm really sorry or very sorry to disturb or interrupt you, but is it okay if I do this, this, this? Or you don't say, is it okay? It's think of speaking in a formal way as when you're talking to your boss at work or talking to your professor. You don't talk to your professor the same way that you talk to your friend. Right? When talking to your friend, this is called informal. Hey, is it okay if I put the television on? You don't talk like that to a professor or a doctor, for example, or even your boss. Okay? So, which of the 6 conversations are formal and which are informal? So, we'll probably say that conversation, let's take 1 for example. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call for you. Who is it? The CEO? Right, I'd better take it. Excuse me a moment. Okay, so it looks like he's talking to someone higher than him. So this is a formal call. Okay, has that respect that you can feel. So 1 is formal. Now let's skip all the way to 6. Sorry, could I possibly interrupt? Yes, of course. What's the problem? Well, would you mind repeating that last figure? I'm afraid I missed it. Certainly, it was 15,783,000. This is also formal, right? Sorry, could I possibly interrupt? That way. You can't be formal and say things like, can I disturb you for a moment? Or, am I disturbing you? Okay? All of these are basically informal ways of saying, help me. Okay? So, we'll say that 1 and 6 are formal, and 2, 3, 4, 5 are all informal. Okay? So that was exercise B, studying the models. What do we have? Here we have exercise C, practicing the model. Have more conversations beginning with the phrases below and decide where each conversation is taking place and if it should be formal or informal. By the way, deciding where each conversation is going to take place is largely going to dictate if your conversation should be formal or informal. Okay? Let me give you some ideas, right? So if I say, I'm sorry to disturb you, but this implies that I'm going to be talking in a formal way. Do you mind if I do this? It shows extra politeness. Okay? If I say, is it okay? Means I want to do something now, which shows that I'm going to talk in an informal way. So again, would you mind, is it okay, I'm sorry to disturb you, but, sorry to interrupt, but, or do you mind if I, okay? So again, take a closer look at these conversations, right, or start conversations with the phrases below, and you, as a student, decide where each conversation is taking place, whether that's a university, a hospital, a company, that's up to you, and decide, after what we just said, decide if it should be formal or informal. Okay? Now let's move on to the next page. Hey, you guys, so now let's move on to the next page. Here we have exercise A, reviewing vocabulary. Let's go to the pronunciation check before we go to the exercise. Here we have multi-syllable words. So we already know that many words in English have more than 2 syllables, right? Examples: quotation, emphasize, and sincerity, right? What you don't know is that there are 2 common stress patterns in multi-syllable words. For example, the stressed syllable in words which end in tion, like when I say quotation, interpretation, contraction, all of these are words that end in tion, is often 2 syllables from the end. What I mean is that the stressed syllable, right, the syllable that has the stress on it, right, is often 2 syllables away from the end. Okay? So again, quotation and interruption, right? Now, other multi-syllable words, not the ones that end in tion, right? The stressed syllable is often 3 syllables from the end and not 2. Okay? So if a word ends in tion, right, the stressed syllable is often 2 syllables from the end. While if it's just a normal multi-syllable word, the stressed syllable is often 3 syllables from the end. Like the word emphasize, right? Like the word sincerity, like the word efficiency. Okay? Forgiveness, improvement, all of these are examples of normal multi-syllable words. Okay? So now let's listen to the audio here and go back to the exercise.
Track 3.16.
Quotation, interruption, emphasize, sincerity, efficiency, forgiveness, improvement.
Okay, let's go to the exercise. Here we have underline the stressed syllable in each word below. Okay, so we want to underline the stressed syllable in each word below. So here we have the first row, A, we have distraction, appreciation, and contribution. Okay, so the first row ends in tion, so that means that its the stressed syllable is 2 syllables from the end. So in this case, it'll be right here, right? So distraction, appreciation, it'll be right here, appreciation, and contribution, it'll be, I think it'll be around here. So contribution, okay? B, preference, emphasis, and possible. Okay, so preference will be around here, beginning. So P, preference, emphasis, and possible, again, the beginning. Do you see the pattern? C, apologize, impossible, and alternative. Okay, each row has its own style, and we'll talk about that in a second. C, the between A and P here, that's nope, right here. So apologize, impossible, right after im, so we'll say possible, that impossible, and alternative, so around here, alternative. And D, we have annoying, agreement, and remember. So again, the beginning, annoying, agreement, and remember. Okay, let's listen and check our answers.
Track 3.15.
A. Distraction, appreciation, contribution. B. Preference, emphasis, possible. C. Apologize, impossible, alternative. D. Annoying, agreement, remember.
Okay, so I had one mistake in row C. Now let's talk about why actually. Why did I choose the underlined stressed here, or why I should say? Well, because row A, right, I chose the same exact the stressed syllable because it's, again, words that end in T-I-O-N, or the stressed syllable is always 2 syllables from the end, right? For row B, the stress was on the first syllable because they are all 3-syllable words, if you guys notice. Okay? C, well, I chose these because stress on second syllable, right? The stress is here on the second syllable because they are all 4-syllable words. And D, the stress on the second syllable because irregular stress patterns. Okay? Now let's move on. Anything else here? No, we don't. We just have the vocab box. We have absolutely, agree, disagree, disturb, either, I suppose so, interruption, and neither or neither. Both are correct. Now let's go to exercise B. Identifying a new skill. So read skills check 1. Right. So let's go to skills check 1. Here we have reacting to contributors. You should react to the contributions of other students in a tutorial. Study the possible contributions below, right? So these are all possible contributions that you should react to, right, in a tutorial. So when agreeing with someone, you'll usually say, I agree with you, or I agree that this, or you could also simply say, that's right. What if you're partly agreeing? I mean, you're agreeing, but you're a little bit on the fence. You could say, possibly, perhaps, right? You could be right, okay? What about disagreeing politely? You could say, I don't really agree that this happened, or I don't really agree with you, right? Holding to your opinion, you could say, I still think that, and you could go on. What about changing your mind? If you've changed your mind, you could say, I've changed my mind, or now I think you're right, or I think that you're okay, or right, in this case. So find and copy one more phrase from the box below into each section of skills check 1. Okay, so here we have some extra phrases, and we're going to have to add them to each section, whether it's agreeing, partly agreeing, or disagreeing politely, etc. So let's start with I'm not sure. So I'm not sure will be disagreeing politely. I'm not sure I agree with you, right? So I'm not sure is disagreeing politely. Absolutely means you're agreeing. So absolutely agreeing. I still don't believe that. This looks like holding to your opinion. I still don't believe that students should smoke, for example, or should watch TV, etc. Yes, actually, that's true. That's changing your mind. So yes, actually, that's true. Did not think of that. I suppose so. Looks like I suppose so goes with partly agreeing. So I suppose so, but I don't know. These are all... Yeah, so basically these were all the phrases. Agreeing, partly agreeing, disagreeing politely, holding to your opinion, and changing your mind. Okay? Now, let's just listen quickly to the audio here before we move on, just so you guys could copy or practice the intonation patterns. So here we go.
Track 3.17.
I agree with you. That's right. Absolutely. Possibly. Perhaps you could be right. I suppose so. I don't really agree with you. I'm not sure. I still don't believe that. I've changed my mind. Now I think, okay, you're right. Yes, actually, that's true.
Okay. So now let's move on to exercise C, reacting to statements. This one's going to be fun. So read the opinions below. Remember, all of these are all opinions. Do you agree? We'll tick. Partly agree, question mark, or disagree, X, with each opinion. Working groups give the opinions that you agree with and ask for reactions from the other students and try to persuade people who agree with you. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do since we're doing this online. I'm going to see the ones that I agree or don't agree with, and I'm going to try to persuade whoever of you is, or whoever of you that disagrees with me. Okay, so basically I'm going to state, or I'm going to be given reasons as to why my opinion is, or why do I agree or not with each opinion. So let's go with A. There's no value to rote learning. Rote learning is basically when you use repetition to memorize things, right? For me personally, I disagree with this, right? Why do I disagree? Because I believe that repetition is a necessary step whenever you're learning in order to get it through your head. Especially if it's something that is just so complex to understand and you have a deadline. I agree that it's not the best way, but it could be a necessary step in order to learn. So I wouldn't exactly say there's no value, but it does have value. I'm sure there is value to repetition. Just think about it this way, right? When you're listening to a song, you listen to it so many times that over time you discover deeper and deeper meanings to the lyrics, obviously depending on what your taste in music is like. Okay? Now let's go to B. Teachers should give students tests every day. Absolutely not. Disagree again. So teachers should not give students tests every day. Tests are stressful. They don't really measure how good you are. Tests are tests. They're not tests for a reason, right? If you really wanted to change students or understand their level, you could talk with them, right? You could try to understand what their problems are, and based on this on your conversations, you could try to change either the way you teach the material or simply keep it the same way. But don't give tests every day. That just stresses students even more. So that's a disagree from me. C. Memory is not culturally determined. I mean, everyone all over the world has the same kind of memory. Well, I think actually I'd say I actually partly agree here. So memory is not culturally determined. Yes, that is true. I mean, everyone all over the world has the same kind of memory. This is where I don't exactly disagree, but I also don't agree. What I say here is, or what I mean by that, rather, is that although everyone has the same human body, it's not the same. It doesn't operate the same way. If it did, all of us would be doctors or engineers. So it just depends on your memory, what you're good at, what you like, what your environment is like. Obviously, someone that has really strict parents is gonna have a very different memory as opposed to someone that watches TV all day. So it depends on, there are a lot of variables here. It's not just memory. Hey, memory is not culturally determined. We all have the same memory. Okay? So again, that's a question mark for me. Partly agree. Mnemonics are very old-fashioned. Basically any way that you could use to learn and memorize things. And I wouldn't say they're old-fashioned. I mean, whatever helps you study and memorize things, hey, good for you. So I don't know. I don't think they're very old-fashioned. So disagree. The whole idea of learning style is wrong. Everybody is the same, really. Again, I don't know why I keep disagreeing with all of these, but hey. So the whole idea of learning style is wrong. That's not correct. We have researchers that say that everybody has his own learning style. You could you could really enjoy listening to things, but someone else would absolutely hate it. Some people like to write. Some people like that visual stimulation. So it really depends on the person. We're not all the same. Okay? So that's a disagree for me as well. F, friendship is not important. You don't have to have friends to be happy. And while that is true to a certain extent, that happiness does not last very long. And I should say it's not even true happiness. Like, the happiness that true friendship brings you is something that doesn't compare to being happy when you're alone. Yes, you could be happy for a short while, but that doesn't last very long. So that's a disagree from me as well. You should not give a reason when you apologize. Reasons sound like excuses. Again, I'll say partly agree here, question mark. Because, right, I do understand, but there are a lot more variables here. Like, it depends on the reason, right, when you apologize. What did you do exactly? Reasons sound like excuses. Depends on the reasons, right? You can't say, hey, I forgot to turn on, or I forgot to pick up the phone because this happened. This excuse that we're talking about is totally depends on what you were doing at that time. Were you watching TV? Because that sounds like an excuse. Were you, I don't know, too tired? That also sounds like an excuse. So it depends on your reasons. So not all reasons sound like excuses. It just depends on what you were doing at that time. So again, partly agree here. Mind maps are the only way to learn new information. Nope, again, disagree. Mind maps are a good way to learn new information, but they're not the only way. We have a ton of ways to learn new information, especially with this, or in this day and age, where the internet is widely available and allows us to learn new information on the spot. Okay? So that was exercise C, reacting to statements. Now let's move on to the next page. Alright, you guys, so now let's move on to the final page of the speaking section, right? Let's start with exercise D. Here we have identifying a new skill. Let's go to skills check 2 first. So we have short answers and question tags. So be careful with short answers and question tags. You must get the agreement right. So always focus on the focus on yourself when saying short answers and question tags, such as if I say, am I disturbing you? Does your phone rule your life? Can he drive? No, you aren't. Yes, it does. No, he can't, right? I'm disturbing you, aren't I? Your phone doesn't rule your life, does it? He can drive, can't he? All of these are examples of short answers, and question tags. Now let's go to exercise D here. Here we have correct the mistakes with the verbs in the sentences below. So here we have A, she's turned the phone off, isn't she? Okay, so here we're not going to say isn't, we're going to have to say hasn't. What I suggest you guys do in this exercise is actually write these down, all these different question tags. Write them down, right, so you don't forget them, and know when to use them exactly, okay? So she's turned the phone off, hasn't she? B, does the television disturb you? Yes, it is. Is wrong here. We're going to use the word does. Okay? Yes, it does. Does here means annoys me. Why did I choose does? Because the auxiliary is always repeated in short answers. Now let's go to C. You won't interrupt again, won't you? Won't is wrong here. We'll say will you. So will you. Okay, so you won't interrupt again, will you? The reason I chose will is because negative becomes positive, and positive actually becomes negative in question tags. Okay, so the opposite. And then we have D. Did you do the assignment? No, I don't. Don't is wrong here. We'll say didn't. Okay, didn't. Here we go. Did you do the assignment? No, I didn't. Okay, again, I chose didn't because the auxiliary, like I said, is repeated in short answers. Okay, again, read skills check 2 again, and let's move on. So we have exercise E, making short answers in question tags. Alright, let's see what we have here. Change each sentence to a positive or negative form. So we have number 1, you use your phone in the library, don't you? Right? If I want to change that to a negative form, I'll say, you don't use your phone in the library, do you? This turns into negative. Let me actually open this. I don't know why I closed it. Okay, so we have 2, you won't be annoyed if I watch TV, will you? Okay, so we'll say, you'll, I want to change this to positive, by the way. So we'll say you'll be annoyed if I watch TV, okay, and then comma, won't you, okay, and question mark. So you'll be annoyed if I watch TV, won't you? Okay. 3, the lecture has been postponed, hasn't it? Okay, I want to change that to a negative sentence, so I'll say the lecture has, it's written as has here, so we'll say the lecture hasn't been postponed, I wrote as pot, postponed, and then comma, has it, question mark. So the lecture hasn't been postponed, has it? Okay, then we have, you found the information on the internet, didn't you? Okay, we're going to turn this to negative now. So we'll say you didn't, right? You didn't find the information on the internet, and then comma, did you? And question mark. Okay, so again, excuse me, you didn't find the information on the internet, did you? Okay, then we have 5, phones distract you when you're studying, don't they? I want to change that to negative again, so I'll say phones don't distract you when you are, or you're in this case, studying, do they? Do they? Question mark. So phones don't distract when you're don't distract you when you're studying, do they? 6, they didn't make good use of their time, did they? So I'll want to change that to a positive sentence, so I'll say they made good use of their time, didn't they? And I messed it up here. Okay, my bad. Didn't they? Okay, so let's go again. You won't be annoyed if I watch TV, will you? I'm going to change that to positive, so I'll say, you'll be annoyed if I watch TV, won't you? And 3, the lecture has been postponed, hasn't it? I want to change that to a negative sentence, or negative form. I'm going to say, the lecture hasn't been postponed, has it? Okay. 4, you found the information on the internet, didn't you? You didn't find the information on the internet, did you? Okay. Phones distract you when you're studying, don't they? Phones don't distract you when you're studying, do they? They didn't make good use of their time, did they? They made good use of their time, didn't they? Okay? So these were making short answers and question tags, okay? Now let's go to skills check 3 here, agreeing and disagreeing. So we can agree and disagree with opinions in simple ways. Like I told you guys before, you should always either agree or disagree with opinions. Or you could also be in that middle ground. But you can't just take yourself out of a situation. Okay? So, for example, if I want to agree or not agree with someone or disagree, I can say I think it's true. Or if it's something that I disagree with, I'll say I don't think it's true. I can also simply say I agree or I don't agree. But it's not just that. There are other common ways, but they're a little bit more complicated, but don't worry, they're not that hard. It's simple. So I can say I think it's true, right? If someone says, hey, did you know that I don't know, maybe Pluto is considered a part of a planet in the solar system, I can say I think it's true. This is just an example off the top of my head, by the way. So someone else could reply and say, hey, me too. So do I. Do you believe smartphones are bad? I don't think it's true. Neither do I. Me neither. Different people talking at the same time. Okay? So to conclude this, we can disagree in a polite way by recognizing the other person's opinion first. Okay, so you can disagree in a polite way. You don't have to punch someone to show them that you disagree with them, but recognize their opinion first. So, say for example, you don't particularly agree with the law, and you're talking to someone that agrees with the law, you could say, I think it's true. Do you? I don't. If someone's talking to you, you could say, I don't. I don't think it's true. Don't you? I do. Okay? These are all examples of agreeing and disagreeing. Alright, now let's go to exercise F. Here we have identifying a new skill. So how can you agree with each statement below? How can you disagree? Can you think of a number of ways in each case? Okay, so here we have A and B, and he wants us to know, or he wants us to agree, or how can we agree with each statement, and how can we disagree? Okay, so if we want to agree, I think phones are bad in the classroom. I could say I agree, right? I could say I do too. I could also say so do I. And I could also say me too. All of these are different ways of saying I agree. Now let's go to B. We have I don't think you should watch television when you are studying. If I want to agree with that, I could say I agree. Neither do I. Or I could also say me neither. Okay? What else do we have? Here we have read skills check 3. Alright, so we already did that. This was a simple exercise. Now let's go to a more complicated one. Exercise G, agreeing and disagreeing. Alright, what do we have here? Here we have complete the conversations with suitable short responses, agree with the speaker in each case, and student C, right, must use a different response from student B. Okay. So student C here cannot have the same exact response as student B. Wouldn't make sense now, would it? So, complete a conversation with suitable short responses. Okay. So let's take one for example. I think mobile phones can waste a lot of time. What can B say, you guys? Again, A said, I think mobile phones can waste a lot of time. So B could say, I do too. And C could say, so do I, instead of saying I do too as well. So again, A said, I think mobile phones can waste a lot of time. B said, I do too. And C said, so do I. Okay? What about number 2? A said, I'm going to put my mobile on silent during my study periods, right? So B could reply and say, so am I, right? Or me too. And C could either say, so am I, or me too, depending on what B says. So if B says, so am I, C could say me too. Okay, and vice versa. Okay. And I will tell people not to phone me at those times. B could say, I will too. And C could also say, so will I. Okay? So, never, B has never said anything that is the exact same as C, or the opposite. Okay? So, yeah. Now let's look again at the conversations. Disagree with each statement. Okay? So, I want you guys to disagree with each statement above. So let's take the first statement, which is, I think mobile phones can waste a lot of time. I mean, as a short response, I could say, do you? I don't. Right? That's a short response that shows that I'm disagreeing with the statement. Right? So again, I think mobile phones can waste a lot of time. Do you? I don't. Okay? What about number 2? But I don't think you should turn them off. I mean, don't you? I do. Again, a short response that shows me disagreeing. What about number 3? I'm going to put my mobile on silent during study periods. Are you? I'm not. Again, use my own style to disagree. And I will tell people not to phone me at these times. Will you? I won't. Okay, so again, this is how you disagree with the statements above. Alright, so now we're going to be listening to some extra statements. Give a truthful response, you guys. This part right here is going to be entirely up to you. So give a truthful response, whether you agree or disagree with each statement, and use practice to how we answer with disagreement or agreement. So here we go.
Track 3.18.
1. I have 2 brothers.
2. I live close to this institution.
3. I'm quite good at English.
4. I'm a morning person.
5. I'm going to go abroad for my next holiday.
6. I don't like the weather at the moment.
7. I didn't go to any lectures last week.
8. I'm looking forward to the exams.
9.
I probably won't work in this country.
Alright, I hope you gave a truthful response. So that was G3, and that concludes our speaking section, you guys. Okay, so this was Progressive Skills in English Level 3 speaking section. Now I guess I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.